Amy Baldwin, the cider maker for Clafeld Fruit Winery, 401 Cider Brewery, and the winemaker at Wapoose Estates. We are at Clafeld Fruit Winery in Wapoose, Prince Edward County.
And you're located sort of just, I guess it's about a 10-minute drive from Picton in the county, right down along the waterfront. What do you have here on site?
For sure. So we're about 10 minutes from Picton. On our property, our estate is 100 acres, and we do share our estate with Wapoose Estates Winery. We have about 15 acres of apple orchard, the oldest trees dating back to around 1975-ish. We do farm a total of about 40 acres of apples with some of our neighbors' orchards. So we have a pretty large selection of apples. We have about 15 different varieties, ranging from your more common Macintosh, Delicious, to your Spies and Russets. So all of our ciders are a combination of apple varieties. We don't do single variety ciders at this time. So all of our apples we have our hand harvesting, and then we use actually a pulverizer to crush the apples, and then we use our grape press to extract all of the cider, which we can check out in a little bit as well.
Can you tell me a little bit about how it got started here and how it all sort of came to be in this location?
For sure. So Wapoose Estates was here first. It's actually the oldest winery in Prince Edward County. So the property prior to vineyard was actually all apple orchards. The founders of Wapoose Estates took out a good chunk of the orchards to plant vineyards and to build the winery, which officially opened in 2001. So we're actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year of planting our vineyard in '93. And so it just kind of seemed like a nice accompaniment to wine. So we built the cider retail shop and officially opened the doors in about 2014, 2015. It was sort of the winter time. And it was just kind of a nice way to expand our portfolio. I mean, we had the apples on hand, and we thought, hey, let's see what kind of ciders we can do. And it just kind of continued on from there, kind of snowballed in a sense. So now we have our straight up apple ciders as well as fusions. So we do a few ciders blended with grape wine. And some naturally steep ciders as well. So with organic rosehip, rose petals, or elderflower, and we also do one with the local honey as well.
And where do you get the other products? Is it all sort of local that you add in, or is it available on the farm?
So all of the sort of like herbal infusions, I do purchase from off-site. So some of them come as close as Ottawa, and then others are sourced a little bit more global, I guess. But I do try to keep those products organic. We can't obviously classify our cider as organic, but just for my own kind of personal preference, I do like to keep things like as natural as possible, which is why we went with more the herbal infusion route rather than a flavored side of things.
And you have sort of some free reign to be able to decide what's coming up and what's next, and how does that come about?
Yeah, so it's a positive and a negative, I guess, because I do have a lot of free reign. So it's sort of reining in that creative mindset, because again, we do have unique varieties, like I said. So some of it is kind of seeing what's in trend at the moment, or what's up and coming. So that's sort of how like the elderflower came about, was just kind of seeing in all industry that it was becoming a more like well-known type of flower and herb additive, I guess, or flavoring. So it kind of spun from there. A newer cider that we have is steeped with a butterfly pea flower, which in something like water will turn it blue. With the addition of citrus, it'll change color. Based on the chemical properties of the cider, it turned it a little bit more purple. But that was a super cool one to do. And you do see a little bit of a color change if you add some lemon to it. And we'll also be coming out with an Earl Grey cider. So again, it's great, but I do have to reel it in sometimes and kind of let that creative go in a different sense. I'm also fortunate enough that I do a lot of the label design for the cider house and the winery as well. So that, I guess, is a nice way to let a different outlet. So instead of having 30 different ciders, I can try and harness that into a different side of things.
It's nice to be able to have an opportunity to be creative, but it's challenging not to go beyond that, right? So
Exactly.
We're walking sort of through the front orchard, as you had said. What are we looking at here? What are these types of the trees that we have in here?
So these ones are russet at the moment, and then we go up a little bit further and they have a couple of Macintosh in this area. This again is a little, we do use the apples from this tiny piece of orchard, but it is a little bit more of like a show orchard. And then it does kind of transition a little bit. We have a small stone fruit orchard as well, so with some peaches and plums, which don't really produce a lot. So again, a little bit more for show. And to walk through. And then again, just past our tree brush here, we get into like our full sort of orchard, vineyard, as well as vegetable gardens.
And where do you do the processing of everything?
So the majority of the processing we do down at the winery with all of our equipment. And then the juice, we have a small, actually we just passed it, the little building there. We do a lot of the primary fermentation in small batches because it is a small building. And then it is a pretty fast turnaround, so we do kind of keep things moving pretty quickly on it. And then again, if need be, we'll bring in extra tanks. So it is all done on the estate here. And then again, we are fortunate enough that we do have some equipment that we can share with the winery. As well as the lab equipment and everything in that sense.
And you got some community members around as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we do have a petting zoo, and we are also an operating farm. So, again, our estate has a pretty big portfolio of things going on. Our restaurant we do have as farm to table. So we do have some animals that we raise for protein and some animals that we raised for petting.
Now, how did you get into all of this yourself?
It was a very happy accident almost. So I'm originally from Barrie, so up north we're the snow belt, and I came across the winery and viticulture program through Niagara College, and learned a lot of grapevines up there. So I thought, let's give it a shot. And I just fell in love with all of the process in making wine, the kind of harmony between nature and science. So I completed the winery and viticulture program as well as the post-grad wine business management to kind of see the other side of things. The opportunity for a winemaker came up in 2011, so I packed my bags and moved to the county. I was 23 at the time, so it was pretty young to step into such a big position, but it was a really welcomed challenge. And from the winemaking side of things, we sort of slowly transitioned into the fruit wine and cider, with starting with a few fruit wines, a blueberry and a cranberry, prior to our cider house opening fully. And then again, it just it was seemed like the right path, everything kind of fell into place, and cider again was just this really up and coming beverage. So all of a sudden the market just exploded with cider houses. So we thought, we had our license, everything covered it, and Clafeld Fruit Winery again was kind of a rigorous process to open up, but we officially did. And we've just been kind of rolling, having new ciders and getting into the swing of things since then.
Probably a little different of the retirement community of Ontario and coming in quite young, so probably a bit of a challenge in that aspect as well, but it sounds as though you're kind of comfortable with the farm life and so on, and that's something that's interesting us more and more as we walk and visit all the different places. Do you want to touch quickly on what all the offerings that you have here? You mentioned a couple of the ciders are already, but what else is available through the whole program here?
Yeah, so again, through our 100-acre estate, we almost do a little bit of everything. We've got something kind of cooking all year round. So we do have a renovated Century farmhouse available for accommodation. We host a lot of weddings and parties through either that venue or our waterfront, which is very popular for ceremonies. We do have our farm-to-table restaurant with a new patio, perfect for this finally summer weather we're getting. Of course, our winery, 25th year anniversary, so we have a lot of fun kind of events scheduled throughout the year. And of course our cider house. So aside from a lot of varieties of cider, we also try to focus on local produce when in season. So we do have a little market that pops up, some local made artisan products, and we also do produce our own estate maple syrup. So we do have about 2,000 maple trees again in the back, where we tap our trees and produce our maple syrup.
And I guess very quickly, what are the quantities that you're producing cider-wise?
Yeah, so cider-wise, again, we've kind of been expanding year after year, which is a great thing. So last year, I believe we pressed for Clafeld, we pressed about 20,000 liters of cider. And some of it we did sell to, again, our other sister company, the 401 Cider Brewery. So we did sell about another 20,000 liters of juice to them. So it's a pretty big, again, we're gaining momentum on it. So right now we have sort of our flagship, our smashed cider, which is our straight up apple cider. So that does kind of eat up a lot of our production, and then we're able to kind of have smaller batches of our unique varieties and kind of release them seasonally as things go. So again, a lot of our production's kind of held for that variety.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge on the cider of late?
Cider is almost kind of figuring out the style. So personally, I prefer a dry cider. So a lot of my ciders are on the drier side of things. Even our sweeter ones aren't crazy high. I think they're maybe around 25-30 grams per liter sugar, and that's like our sweetest variety. So for me, it's kind of honing in on, just again what the consumer is looking for a cider. There's so many different varieties in the sense that you can get, the very pale ciders, very au naturel, and then of course you have more of the flavored cider side of things on like a larger scale production. So it's kind of finding that happy medium between those styles. It was almost like one extreme to another. So I know in the beginning, kind of playing around with styles and things, it was really just kind of coming down to what people are looking for, having something that can suit a lot of different tastes. And for me, ciders are like wines. They should be paired with food and enjoyed with food. So it's making a really like food-friendly cider that again is approachable and not too intense. So yeah, it was kind of that. And again, like I mentioned, kind of keeping a hone in on that creative bug that can just take you away. So it was finding the varieties that we liked. There was a few that didn't make the cut because our branding would just kind of have expanded and kept going. So that of course remains as always. It will be a challenge to kind of keep that on the down low.
What's your favorite one yourself, or can you say you have a favorite?
Yeah, it is hard to pick a favorite, honestly. There are some, I know that just take off. We had one, we just produced this last year called Hey Lady. And we actually ran the cider over Baco Noir grape skins that had just been pressed. And for me, it was a really cool process because it really leached like a lot of color. So it has this really nice peachy tone to it. And it also got a lot of flavor from it. So it was a little bit more berry forward. It's not, aggressive, but it's just like a nice little addition to it, like little notes on it. So that definitely was kind of fun. But yeah, it's always exciting. Harvest time, you can't help but just get the bug, when you see all the apples coming in and the different varieties. So I try to, get pictures of all the apples coming in, and you just kind of get taken away in apple season, right? So bloom is a little bit later this year. We had kind of a later spring here, but again, this past week with like this intense sun and heat, everything's just been taking off. So I don't think it'll hinder us in any way. Our back orchards, they're all in bloom right now, and we have about 5 pollination trees back there as well. So I was back there the other day, and it was like literally just buzzing. So you could just kind of hear all of the, the bees. And so it was nice to see that.
And if people want to get hold of the product or learn more about what you do, where can they go, and what's the best way to contact?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we always encourage people to come down and visit us and enjoy not just our Wapoose winery, Clafeld Fruit Winery, but the whole county. It's really exploding. So it's nice to come and explore the area. But of course, if you can't make it to us, you can always visit us online, and you can purchase online as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure as well. Thank you.